Hi, everybody, and welcome to the 2016 Florida State Championships here at Peabody's in Tampa. I'm Jim Stevens, and we're opening things up with some open singles. And it's an interesting open singles matchup. That, of course, is Bobby Diaz, the outstanding goalie and all-around player from this area, from the Tampa Bay area. And that is his son, Dakota, a very, very talented player, as you will see. And Dakota up 2-1 here in game number 1. Bobby Diaz before the match saying he was going to teach the boy a lesson, but frankly, Dakota, a supremely talented player, doesn't have the mental game that his dad does, but physically probably better than his dad in terms of athleticism on the table. So an interesting matchup here in the round of 16 in open singles as we get Saturday action underway here at the Florida State Championships. 3-1 lead early on for Dakota. Diaz tried to sweep that long pull shot. Dakota Diaz and bangs it off that outside wall. Beautiful shot there by Dakota Diaz. And Bobby, that one off the corner, back into his own goal, and it's 1-0 just like that. Bobby Diaz, of course, one of the best smack talkers in the business when it comes to talking trash on a foosball table. He is really, I would think, top 2 or 3. But talking trash against his own son, we'll see how that progresses. Here's Diaz. Bobby fires that one home to open it up here in game number 2. And there you hear it already as he looks across, says, where you at? One nothing lead in games for Dakota. 1-0 lead here in the second game for his dad, Bobby. Of course, Diaz, such a good defensive player. Bobby D, they call him, for good reason. One of the great defensive goalies, especially against the top players that the sport has ever seen. I recall a match, and we talk about this a lot whenever we see Bobby Diaz, and I want to say it was 5, maybe 6 years ago now, and the pass and the quick score here by Dakota. Hall of Fame Classic. A match, I think it was a winner's bracket final perhaps. It was Bob Diaz and Ryan Moore against Frederick Collignon and Todd Lafredo. And it might even have been the final. In fact, I think it probably was. Here's Dakota setting it up. And Diaz blocking it and taking it away. But in the first game of the match, Frederick Collignon, I believe, had 36 possessions on his 3-row in one game. And Bobby Diaz blocked 31 of them against the greatest player of all time. Now, do the math on that, and you'll see that they lost that game despite 31 blocks by Diaz, as Ryan Moore only had maybe 7 or 8 possessions during the course of that game. But truly one of the great defensive displays that we have seen certainly over the last decade and maybe ever. Bob Diaz, I would think, will be voted into the Table Soccer Hall of Fame, I would think, as soon as next year, and probably should be next year. I think he's a player that could have gone in this year, I think, and did receive votes. But I think assuredly he'll go in next year. And again, talking about the best goalies of all time, certainly on the tornado table, you really have the 3 big names of Diaz, McMillan, and Lafredo. And those guys are interchangeable. They all have world championships, multi-world championships. They all have different skills, of course, but they all have one thing in common, and that's they're great defenders and very good offensive players from goal. Bobby Diaz slowing it down a little bit here. And strokes it home far side. And then looks across. Talking about the best smack talkers in the sport, I don't think anybody's better than Tommy Atkinson, who will be inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. Not the Smack Talking Hall of Fame, but the Foosball Hall of Fame. So Tommy will be in Las Vegas to compete next month. fact, he'll be playing with Terry Rue on his induction weekend. But when Tommy gets rolling on the table, the smack talk is really second to none. Bobby tried to come near side, blocked away. Dakota almost able to grab it. And the quick pass here by Dakota. And Dakota now up 3-2 here in the second game. He's already up 1-0. Three-two lead for Dakota. Bobby, again, slowing it down. Will sit, wait, fake, and then try to come down the middle, blocked up into the air and off the table. Still 3-2 for the very confident Dakota Diaz. Bobby using the left hand on both rods in that goal area, keeps it out. There one up into the air and then right back down. Three-two lead here in game number 2 for Dakota Diaz. Bobby, again, looking to slow it down a little bit. I guess these guys have scrimmaged a few times over the years. The gamesmanship between father and son here. And Bobby will call a timeout. Oh, nice save attempt there. Bobby again will look to tie it. Bobby D looking for some Bobby O here. But goes wide of the goal. Another chance here for Diaz. Bobby Diaz. That's the far side, and Dakota takes it away. So right now it's Dakota D, as he continues to put the clamps down on his dad's 3-rod. But Bobby's going to get another chance here. And that slow, straight, nicely done by Bobby. It's 3-3. course, this open singles competition includes names like Sprademan, Lafredo, Yor. I think those are probably your three favorites. Let's not forget about the great young player Blake Robertson, who is just playing so well these days. And we're going to get a timeout here. Three here in the second game. Bobby. Tried to come near side. Dakota was there. Rebound comes back to Diaz, who sends it up with the left hand. Nice save and pickup here by Dakota Diaz, who's able to rattle this one through. And Dakota will shoot for the lead and find it. It's 4-3. And back into the goal just like that. It's 2-0. Coming to you live from Peabody's here in Tampa, Florida, as Bobby gets on the scoreboard first here in Game 3. Dakota going with a left hook and then picks up the rebound with his 3-rod. A lot of things that Dakota can do on a foosball table, whether it's pull shot, snake shot, trick shots. Very talented player, as you can see. And oftentimes over the years, this is the kind of player, ironically enough, that Bob Diaz has had trouble with. The talent, the guy who gets it and goes with it, as opposed to necessarily the thinker. Not that Dakota doesn't think, but he's more of a rhythm talent kind of guy. And Diaz over the years has had problems with those sorts of 3-roads. Now, if you're going to try to think against Bobby Diaz and strategize as the great players do, he's going to get in your head and he's going to have some success against you. Just ask Frederic Collignon. And another left hook attempt here by Dakota, whose men were apparently positioned properly, because that one came back at his own goal. Oh, look at that little tap pass. Dakota feeling it right now. That one back down the middle, blocked away by Bobby. And Bobby Diaz is going to end up with a possession. Of course, Bobby Diaz really made a name for himself as Terry Moore's partner in the 1990s. They won something like 13 titles during that decade. And then later, of course, as Ryan Moore's. And that one back in his own goal. But with Ryan Moore, they've won a couple of Hall of Fame Classic titles. Of course, the 2014 Tornado World Championship in open doubles. Another left hook. That's 3 in a row now from Dakota. One of them went back in his own goal. That one angled up the middle, and Dakota had a chance to grab it on his 3. Couldn't do so. I don't think he wants to really take his foot off the accelerator here against his dad. But Bobby Diaz certainly has put together a Hall of Fame career with predominantly the two Moores. This weekend he'll be playing with Tom Yor, and they've played together a few times, and the pull kick predicted by Dakota, and he's there to block it back in. It's 2-2. Bobby Diaz also, I believe, has a mixed doubles title as a forward and some pretty good finishes out on the Pro Tour, especially back in the 1990s and into the 2000s. And the table talk continues. Diaz with a left hand, Bobby D keeping it out and then snagging the rebound. Dakota needs to be careful here. That's a reset. Sliced on goal by Bob. Bringing the open singles action in the round of 16. Diaz versus Diaz. A lot of tradition here in the Tampa Bay area. Of course, Tom Yor, Bobby Diaz, both out of this area. Outstanding player Scott Cook as well. But you go back over the years, of course, Johnny Horton really epitomizes, I think, the Tampa style. Great goalie Mike Green, who is here this weekend. Johnny's former partner. Names like Ricky Benitez and others. Chris Starcheski. Some great major tour champions out of this Tampa area. They really developed a style, the tic-tac pass, and was really developed here. You'd say it was invented here. Still used to this day by Horton when he plays, by Tom Yore, who uses a hybrid of it. But the Tampa tic-tac has become a major part of the sport. And that one blocked back into the goal. Things turning around a little bit here against Dakota. And Bobby says, I'm not going to put it down. You'll have to do it yourself as the gamesmanship continues. Father versus son. Dad's on the left. Junior on the right. And Bob Diaz is going to pick it up and look to win game number 3. And he does. Coming right out, opening up this 4th game is Dakota as he strokes that one home. It's 1-0. Bob Diaz has evened it up here in game number 4, a game he really must have, of course, in order to stay in the winner's bracket of open singles. Hope you're enjoying this coverage of the 2016 Florida State Championships, coming to you in HD at netfoos.tv and, of course, on Inside Foos video. And that battle won by Dakota, who walks it. Fakes, good hard fakes here. Tried to come back down the middle, but Bob there to make the block and take it away. Get the sense this one, if it does go 5, is going to get very competitive. It already is kind of ramping up here a little bit. There is a certainly a rivalry here, the normal father-son stuff, but also 2 very good foosball players. As you can see, look at the talent there. That one blocked right up into the air and off the table. Dakota Diaz, a guy really with just tremendous talent. We don't get a chance to watch him play a lot. We've seen him predominantly here in the state of Florida, and I do recall seeing him at a North Carolina State event and perhaps at Kentucky years ago. But a guy who doesn't get out on tour very much, but really a guy also whose talent is capable of propelling him to victories against anybody. Bob Diaz has now surged ahead here in the 4th. Dakota will get a possession and fire it home. It's 2-2. Bob can't hold onto the pass. Comes back to Dakota, who will use the left hand here. And Bob intercepts. And working the pull shot. Tries to go straight here. Dakota with a block and the save. Still 2-2 here in the fourth game. 2-1 lead for Dakota Diaz. Bobby steps back completely into defensive position, and there's Dakota to grab it on his three. But Bob able to take it right back. One thing you know about Bobby Diaz defensively is he's going to make adjustments throughout a match, no matter who he's playing against. One of those goalies, as we've talked about over the years, who really causes the goal to shrink as a match goes on. The holes get smaller. Has a great understanding of the principles of defense. He's been a pretty good offensive player, at times a very good offensive player during his career. Not as much now, but really it's his defense that has made him the Hall of Fame, future Hall of Fame goalie that he is. And, of course, his table savvy as well, and foosball IQ. He needs this one to tie it at 3 here in Game 4. And then just angles it in. And even his son, Dakota, begrudgingly gives him credit for that one. 3-3 here in the fourth game. Dakota angles that one down. Will set it up, looking to move within one of victory, and he strokes it home. It's match point. You really wonder how many times over the years these two have played against each other in a major competition. First time I've seen it. Bob gets this one through. And then finds the straight hole and calmly takes the point. Dakota Diaz with a match point here. Passing it down the middle, setting it up. Does have a timeout remaining, doesn't need it as he strokes it home, and there it is. So Dakota Diaz defeats Bobby Diaz in 4 games to advance to the quarterfinals.